Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to you also. My name is Teresa, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the Young Adult Volunteer Program, otherwise known as YAV, through the Presbyterian Church, which is the program that I have been called to serve with now for the next couple of years. So the journey begins about a year ago. I was at a place where I was just kind of brainstorming and thinking of different things that I could be doing in my life. I've been teaching preschool in the greater Seattle area for the last 3 years, but I don't have a degree in this, and so had kind of just thought, what else is there for me right now when I'm in my 20s? I'm not tied to anyone or anything, so what else is there for me? And in my own research was kind of coming up short, and then the general presbyter of the Presbytery of Northern Kansas, which is where I grew up. And if you're unfamiliar, a presbytery is just a regional group of Presbyterian churches. Kind of the person in charge, Melanie, she emailed and said our presbytery had been sponsoring a young adult volunteer for this program for the last 2 years who did not grow up in our presbytery. And she said, that's been great, but now that we're a little bit more familiar with the program and how it works, we would love to send one of our kind of youth alum from the presbytery. And she said, I thought of you or your sister as being kind of the perfect fit, as being our pilot people or person for this idea. And unbeknownst to her, it really came at the most perfect time in my life. I was like, this is the thing. Like, I had totally forgotten about the YAV program. I had heard about it 6 years ago or so at Triennium, which is just a every 3-year meeting of Presbyterian youth, and had gone to like a small group about it and thought, wow, like that would be really cool. But at this point, I think that was after my sophomore year, so hadn't totally started making many decisions on post high school and what I was going to be doing. And so as time went on, I kind of just put it away in my brain, didn't really think about it, and ultimately decided and found other things to do. And so like the light bulb went off. I was like, this is it. And so I sat on it for a while and I was like, I don't know. Do I really want to leave Seattle? Do I really want to put this preschool thing aside for a while? I don't really know. And then, funny enough, I took the 2 kids that I was living with at the time to see Frozen 2 for their birthday. And spoiler, I cried like 7 times. It's so good. In the best, cried like in the best way, because it just really like hit home for me. There's this song that Anna sings called The Next Right Thing, and it just really like drives home this idea that you don't have to have things planned 10 years from now. Like, I'm definitely a dreamer, but if you were to ask me like, where do you see yourself in 10 years, quite frankly, I have no idea. And so that can sometimes be a really like overwhelming feeling, and I really want to like have things figured out. And it was just a really good reminder that you just have to figure out what the next right thing is for you, and that is enough. And so that was kind of the push for me to apply to this program. This program has several national sites in places like Boston, Tucson, New Orleans, where they serve and do different missions with local organizations and or churches, and also in international sites in places like Scotland, the Philippines, Peru, and plenty of others. And so I applied and interviewed with a few of the different sites. Through the whole interview process, Scotland really kind of stayed at the top of my list for a handful of reasons. One, I really felt like I clicked well with the leaders there, and also the Presbyterian Church began in Scotland, so spiritually I knew that this would be a really great experience and place for me to be if I were to be accepted to the program. And so the interview process happened all through January, and then at the beginning of February I received an offer from Scotland to serve there, and I accepted it immediately. I was so excited. And then in March, the pandemic hit. Everything was really up in the air. I didn't hear anything for a while about what was going to be happening with my YAV class. I knew that the current volunteers that were out on site had been sent home within the first couple of weeks of the pandemic for safety reasons, of course. So then at the beginning of June, we heard that we would not be going to serve in person until January of 2021 at the earliest. The stated clerk of the Presbyterian Church had put all staff and volunteer on a travel ban through the end of December, and so that would kind of halt our service. But we heard that there would be some kind of virtual training prior to that. The summer kind of went on, and we heard in mid-August that the in-person service for 2020-2021 was totally canceled, but that there would be a virtual program for all of us to engage in. And the virtual program was totally free to us if we would sign on, and there were some options. There was an option to only do the virtual year. There was an option to pass on the virtual year and just go to serve starting next fall. And then option C was to do both. So it's a 2-year commitment. I had kind of thought about that for a couple of weeks just to kind of think about what, I was ready to commit to and things like that. And ultimately, I didn't really have anything else on the docket that far down. And so I have committed to both this virtual year and to serve in person in Scotland next fall, hopefully, as long as the progress of the pandemic is safe. A little bit about this virtual program now. It started just a couple weeks ago at the beginning of October, and will just be an orientation and a training for all of the volunteers, and also involves a little bit of anti-racism training. Right now, as you know, we are finding ourselves in a lot of social and political and cultural kind of unrest. Continuing with this program, I'm excited for it because in this, season of a lot of unknown with the pandemic, this is giving me an opportunity to slow down and have language for how to approach these hard conversations with people who don't agree with me. And so the framework that we're using for the program is the Matthew 25 initiative, which was put out by the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church a couple years ago. The 3 foci of this Matthew 25 program are: number 1, building congregational vitality; number 2, eradicating systemic poverty; and number 3, dismantling structural racism. So we'll do this these first couple weeks we've just really been learning about what all of those mean and some specific examples, and we'll have weekly small group meetings to kind of have discussion about these. We'll do a couple book studies. So that's one of the biggest pieces of this virtual program. The other topics will be, around theology of the Presbyterian Church. We'll touch on that. Some of the different site coordinators, like mine from Scotland, will do a week's worth of content about what the local mission is for those specific sites. And each of the sites through YAV, whether virtual or in a normal year, if you will, the setup is different and the focus is different based on whatever the needs are of that community. And so that may look like partnering directly with churches, that may look like partnering with local nonprofits, a combination of all of those things. So a little bit about Scotland specifically. I can speak to Scotland works with the Priority Areas Office of the Church of Scotland, and this Priority Area Office identifies parishes that are in the bottom 5% of social and economic markers. And so they've identified these parishes and churches. So for the last 6-7 years, I believe, the site has been based in Glasgow, and volunteers have worked with parish churches in and around Glasgow. The churches around Glasgow, they're a little bit more settled now. And so the site now, what would have been this year, but next year, is moving to Dundee. So the volunteers who are part of the Scotland site, like mine, we're paired with a church, and we will just work with them in building relationship and asking questions about what they need and how we can best help them in a way that's not harmful to the local context. And so, yeah, I'm really excited. There's been lots of, ups and downs with the disappointment of not being able to go yet, but the excitement of whatever is ahead and all the people I'm going to meet and things I'm going to see. And so that's a little bit about what's going on, and I'll be updating this channel every once in a while with what's going on or different places that I'm seeing. So be sure to hit the subscribe button to be notified when there's new videos. I also have a blog that I'll be updating probably a little bit more frequently once I'm in service. And yeah, so if you have any questions or things to say, you can write them in the comments. I look forward to kind of keeping you all updated on what's happening, and thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.